This was a woman who haunted the hall, apparently, because of a tragedy that had happened to her. She had invited the man she loved to come to her graduation ball. And just before the ball occurred, he was tragically involved in a fatal accident. So he was not able to come to her dance. And apparently, some people say there's a letter on file in the campus archives from 1916 that describes this accident that took place. And so, ever since then, students have said that they have seen her dressed all in white, gliding, not just walking, but gliding, swooping down the halls, always just before a dance, or a tea, or a party, or a mixer, or what, remember those mixers? Yeah. They were bad enough without worrying about women making your hair stand on end. So the woman in white was pictured, they say, above the fireplace, because she had, after her boyfriend died, she had, some versions say that she pined away and just died. Others say that she died by her own hand, but in any case, she died very young. And it was so sad that her boyfriend had died and missed the dance, and she was shamed and miserable. And so, forever after, she is said to be haunting the halls of Wilder. Any of you who lived in Wilder, did anybody hear that story while here? Or anything else like it?
I heard there was a woman in white.
You heard there was a woman in white?
Never heard the details.
Okay, well that's good.
I didn't live here
in
Wilder.
That's great. What year did you graduate?
75.
So that was right around the time that the ghost stories were getting to be more. That's very interesting to hear. And then, okay, who else?
I just have a question.
Yes.
I'm sorry to be dense.
No, please.
It's this woman in this picture, or was another picture that was here?
Okay, this is the part that I just learned from Stephanie that I still need to tell you. And that's that, in fact, Stephanie, why don't you tell it?
Okay, so according to rumor, there is a image of this woman in white that has been hanging over this mantelpiece since she died. The only problem is they can't take it down. They have tried and tried and tried, and for some reason it will not come off the wall. So it was freaking out students so much that they decided to cover it up with this lovely young lady, who there is actually a black support frame underneath it. So you can go over there and look that there's definitely room for another picture under there. And the rumor is that there's this picture of the woman in white, and that is how they solved the scary aspect of this portrait.
And didn't you tell Stanley about female ghosts? But there is also a story about a male ghost in Wilder, and this is based on apparently a very old tragedy. There was apparently a general store owner up on the main street here who had fallen into sad thoughts, and one day he went down to Lower Lake and drowned there. And one of the students in the dorm later on the night that he lost his life said that she looked up and saw a man who looked very sad, very somber, and she said he was wearing something dark over something light, and he was wearing a hat, and he just stood there and looked at her very seriously.
In her room?
In her room, yes, it was in her room. And she said, "What are you doing here?" And he just looked at her again, and then melted away into thin air. And that's what often happens in these stories, that someone is there and then just isn't there anymore. And she wondered, she said she wondered whether the story about his committing suicide might have been false, and perhaps he was murdered and wanted to seek justice. But and it appeared to her for that reason.
When was this sighting?
This was, I think, back in the 20s, something like that, quite a while ago. And it was based on an actual event, and she saw the man. But she's just as with virtually all the campus ghosts I've encountered, not at all, a problem. Just there, just wanting to be there for a little while, and then not there, just not there any longer. So that's an unusual story of of a male ghost on this campus. And I have to mention just one other brief reference to the hidden portrait here. This story of someone you love who doesn't show up at the right moment is typical of legend cycles on many American college campuses. At University of Georgia, there's a famous ghost named Susie, who was supposed to have been married in the house that is now a sorority house, and it's called the Wedding Cake House because it's so beautiful. You've seen it?
No.
It's just real. I have a picture of it in my book. It's just a beautiful, beautiful house, very elaborate. Looks like lace. And there's an attic room, and the story says that Susie was going to be married, and she was waiting at the altar for her fiancé. She was all dressed in a beautiful white dress, and the reception was already a beautiful cake, and it was going to be the most wonderful wedding the town had ever seen. And then her fiancé didn't come, and he didn't come, and he didn't come, and 3 hours went by, and she was so shamed and grief-stricken that she ran up to the attic of her house and hanged herself there. And then it turned out that the bridge was out. The bridge was broken, and so he wasn't able to get there in time. But the fun part of the story, it's not just a sad story, because the sort of fun part of the story is that every girl who has the bedroom where Susie allegedly died will be either pinned, engaged, or lavaliered. And then lavaliered means getting the fraternity, initials on a necklace within a year. Because that's either the curse or the blessing, depending on how you look at it, of Susie's ghost, that she wants to help her sorority sisters to have a happy marriage, to have a better life than she had. And so apparently it's a great privilege to get that room, and they take it very seriously, and they listen closely to what happens. Right before our eyes here, the ghost is not our only resident. Please be courteous during quiet hours. And apparently in this room, there have been strange noises, sort of clunking, noises that might have been made by someone who couldn't move around very easily, who had a leg problem from falling down the stairs. So this is a really creepy looking ghost.
Lights. Lights?
Oh, yes.
Oh, it has lights.
Anybody who dares can come in. It's very creepy.
Oh, look at this room.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Sorry.
So this was really a room at one point?
So they
Yes.
say.
Yes.
Really?
This is a creepy place.
Yeah. And there's room if you want to come in. It's hot, though. I don't think we should stand for long. Somebody might get too hot.
On the third beam on the door, just above the door, there are ropes, which rumor has it were from a rope. The notches on the top of that beam right there,
Oh my.
theoretically from a rope. Though we're not sure.
And how long was the room?
Just a 2-second recap of bathroom ghost history. This is a pretty important subject. One of the earliest ghost stories that I've ever read came from ancient Greece. There was supposedly a ghost that haunted bathhouses. And when people would go to bathhouses, especially at night, they would hear strange noises and moans, and ghosts were there haunting the bathhouse, making people think about the spirits of the dead. There's something about bathrooms that makes people think of haunting. In Harry Potter, you might remember the name of one. Moaning Myrtle. Moaning Myrtle. Exactly. And at Indiana State University, there's a less notorious but also wonderful ghost, I think, whose name is the Barfing Ghost at Burford Hall. And she is thought to be a ghost of someone who had an eating disorder, and who would come out late at night and throw up, and sometimes laugh like, ha, 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 ha. And when you look to see who was in the bathroom next to you, there were no feet at all. But you would still hear the sounds. And you would hear the toilet flushing, sometimes several times. You look under, look for the feet, nobody's there. So,
And the stall was locked? There was
oh yeah, it was locked, nobody there. So